Here we go. That should do it, shouldn't it? We're going to start by sitting. Sukhasana, if you don't mind. Cross-legged, gap between the legs and pelvis. Buttock flesh drawn out and back. And of course, if you need to, sitting on a block or blocks. Up to 2 blocks. But if you're on 2 blocks, it's definitely always a blanket underneath the shins. We can talk about why that is, but it just is. For now, we can say shorthand. So gap between the legs and pelvis, attention into the heart center, breathing through your nose, settling any expectations. Any of the 3 grrs, gripping, grasping, grabbing. Bring your hands to prayer position if you're ready. And attention draws into the heart center, which is the quiet point, the still point, or the middle. So we call the middle the heart, don't we? We talk about the heart of the matter and things like that. So here the heart is literally a center of the central channel, and the central channel makes a lot of sense if you consider, for example, the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Right up to and including the brain. So it goes beyond the spinal column, so which is why we talk about the central channel anterior to the spinal column and then continuing. And to help soften the sense of inside, outside, you and me here and there, we can also imagine the central channel extending beyond the body. So in some systems, we imagine the central channel continues up to a point that's called the Dwadash Anta, or Dwadash Anta is 12, Dwadash Anta, end of, the end of 12 finger widths above the head. And you can imagine a similar Dwadash Anta underneath the pelvis, so 12 finger widths into the ground, as it were. This is particularly effective if you're literally sitting on the ground, on the earth, but it works either way. Interlace your fingers to their roots. Stretch your arms diagonally down. Raise up when you're ready. And as you raise up, make sure that you're not squashing the microphone, but also, if you haven't got a microphone, that might not be relevant, but also make sure you're not squashing the trapezius descending fibers. So it's a meditation in the present, based on breathing. There should be a flow. Based on breathing, perhaps there's circling, tuning in on this central channel as a way of giving the body a reference, a way of orientating itself. Big, wide circle. Hands to the knees, palms up. Jnana Mudra or Jnana Mudra. Reputable Sanskritists will use either of those, Jnana or Jnana. And, you know, in a sense, that the fact that those two are used by reputable Sanskritists, it does fly a little bit in the face of Sanskrit being a language that exists before time and it's unchanging, etc. There are some aspects that are unchanging. There are some aspects that have changed, and also it itself comes from various language forms that predate it. Predominantly, of course, Proto-Indo-European and then Indo-Iranian. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, one hand on the floor behind you, doesn't matter which one, we're practicing at home. And one hand crosses over the legs. Let's start with the palm in. Let's all start that way, with the palm facing in. Now there is a certain quietness, a certain pointing in, a certain pratyahara to having the palm in. So hopefully that, you know, if your mind has been busy, thinking about externals, whatever those are, perfectly valid externals, whatever those are, then it can end up like we're spinning lots of plates, you know, and running between them to keep them spinning. So pratyahara, turning in like this, is kind of keeping one plate spinning, you know. And that plate is sort of spinning like a chakra right in the middle of the heart center. The Hridaya chakra or the Hrit chakra, the heart chakra. And let's try something different. Let's take that hand, palm in, and let's drag it towards the pelvis a little bit. Now that's going to make you feel contracted and closed across the collarbones, which I hope will inspire you to open the other side of the body more dynamically, to balance what otherwise would have felt closed. So it encourages a more dynamic challenge based on feeling the stretch equally, or increasingly equally, across the collarbone area, between the shoulders, where the pectoralis muscles engage with the arm muscles. So quite useful. Now from there, with the palm in, we're going to roll the palm to face out, and that should move it back in the direction of the knee. And that rolling will roll your shoulder, you'll feel rolled out in the chest. And then you'll want to measure and balance that, no doubt, by getting a rolling feeling on both arms. And this adds a sort of completeness to the little journey that we're taking here. Lovely. Release and return to center. Palms up, eyes closed if you want, or they don't have to be closed. They can be open or half open. Back in our jnana mudra. And then lift up from both groins when you're ready on the inhale. And turn the other direction. Again, we'll start with palm in, pointing ourselves towards this pratyahara, which is made of two words, prati, which can mean away from or towards. And ahara, which means food in this, in the most simple sense. So pratihara or pratyahara, when you apply word sandhi to it, pratyahara can point two ways: away from food, towards food, implying, and it's clear from several commentaries and texts that this is the purpose, that we're moving away from so-called external food, which is validation from others, you know, social status and so on. That's called external food, into this internal sustenance. Just drag the hand closer to the hip now, and that will make your chest feel closed. So the only way to open it is to open across the back arm. And that's quite dynamic and lovely. If you're as fortunate as I just was, you might get a lovely back pop. That was nice. Breathe through your nose. Relax if you want. Relax totally if you like. Open the back arm to counter the closed feeling of bringing the hand a little closer to the hip. And then roll your hand out back towards the knee. And that rolling of the shoulder, you measure and mirror by rolling the back shoulder as much as is possible at the same time. Don't hold the breath. Great. Okay. Return to center. Take a breath, rest your hands back in your jnana/jnana mudra. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brains. Change the cross of your legs so the other one is in front when you're ready. There's a gap between the legs and the pelvis. We draw the buttock flesh out and back, of course. Palms facing up. So exactly the same pose, although there's no such thing as exactly the same anything ever. The universe is constantly moving. everything in it is moving and bumping into everything else and co-creating. So we get these sorts of ripples meeting other ripples and creating cross-confluence. The fields bumping into fields endlessly. And this is the dance, the endless dance. And, even if you consider entropy, the dance is endless because, of course, most self-respecting particle physicists postulate that there isn't a beginning and an end, a sort of ultimate beginning and end, but instead, universes that are coming back to a point become a sort of birthplace for a new universe, and there may even be parallel universes affecting each other through membranes. It's all rather exciting. in infinite co-creations, one universe disappears and rearises in another membrane. Metaphorical, amazing stuff. Inhale when you're ready. Lifting as before, turning as before. Perhaps you can enjoy visualizing and feeling the central channel plus the two main channels that orbit around it, the Ida and the Pingala. And breathing, soft eyes, and jaw soft, and the palm facing in, and then we drag it like we did, same sort of little ritual, towards the pelvis a little closer, and then to open up to feel that equality, which I know we all, this is something we all kind of crave for, is equality. Everything craves for equality, Air pressure craves for equality. And then roll your hand. It should roll back towards the knee and mirror that with the other arm. Don't hold the breath. That would indicate that we've picked up the wrong tool for this job. There are two tools that we can use, presence or planning. The right tool is presence. Planning requires a sense of creating a separate self that we imagine is a fixed thing that can exist from tomorrow to today through, ad infinitum into various futures. Okay, return to center, pause for a moment. Back in your jnana mudra. Relax your shoulders, inhale from both groins and turn. Obviously, the other direction. This, of course, is the parivrita. Some people, of course, familiar with Patanjali will recognize vrita as similar to vriti, and both from the same root, vrit, which means to whirl around. Drag the hand a little closer to the hip, and then counter that closure with a more dynamic opening across the collarbone region. Across the collarbone region. Breathing through your nose if you can. Across the collarbone region. And then that rolling of the hand and that final mirroring on the back arm right to the edges of the collarbones. Perhaps you can visualize what's happening at the edges of the collarbones. Outer edges, peripheral margins, lateral margins. Okay, good job. Return to center. What a simple but lovely set of postures, I think. We're going to come off a block if we're on a block, and we're going to sit straight on the floor and take Ubhaya Padangusthasana. So Ubhaya means both, Pada means foot, Angushta means thumb. So Ubhaya Padangusthasana means holding both, or implies holding both foot thumbs, big toes or great toes. And then you can, the heels come up. It's a meditation. So the whole purpose, the only purpose, is to disappear into the breath beyond, to a place beyond doubt. These are not the philosophies of Jim Taran. These we find in the Yoga Sutra and other places. Most of what I reference comes from the South Asian traditions. So doubt is posited in many traditions, Buddhist traditions, Shaiva traditions, Jain traditions, and of course in the Patanjala Yoga Shastra, as an obstacle, obstacle to yoga. So doubt arises when we don't know something. So the antidote is knowing. The antidote to doubt is knowing. What is it we need to know? This is already, it exists already. You don't have to make it or manufacture it. And it's always existing. Prakriti always exists. So, this is where Buddhist emptiness comes in. The emptiness is a way of being open. And the openness gives a spontaneous response, as you can sort of respond to somebody if you know them very well. Okay, when you're ready, we're going to take the feet together for Baddha Konasana. Now, I very much find it useful to push down and lift up my pelvis, so it's actually moving around. I'm just extra moving it, so you can see it's floating, as it were. And then having pushed up, and you can use blocks for this if you want, you lower down sort of easy, trying to keep that sense of the lift, of the length from the inner groins up. So this is the psoas stretch. So it's very useful indeed to keep the pressure down, to keep up into the hands, so that you keep the stretch up in the groins. So that's a great thing to do, and to stay like that as long as you want. There are options, of course, to also hold the feet. That's another option. You'll lose a bit of that psoas stretch if you're not pressing into the ground, but it may bring some other benefits like stability. And of course, we're breathing through our noses if we can. We're moving as a meditation if we can. The breath is expressive and natural. We're investigative in our awareness. And our breath is our indicator. Without the breath, we have no indicator. So deep, natural breath, the indicator, the indication that the breath is giving us is whether or not there's flow. It's indicating whether or not there's flow. And if there's flow in the breath, there's flow in the body. And if there's no flow in the breath, there's no flow in the body. So keep that breath open, natural, flowing. As our priority, actually. It's the priority. Open, natural flow. Okay. Release when you're ready and extend your legs out. Give yourself a little moment. If you want to rub down, it's always worth doing that. Energy bath. Always got to be thorough with energy baths. You don't want to just do one part of the body. The point is for the Vyana Vayu. So they're everywhere, energy. So you trying to want to really rub down the whole kit and caboodle, basically. And then when you're ready, you take one leg up and put the foot in the crook of the opposite elbow without any discomfort in your knee. Now, how do you avoid discomfort in the knee? Well, take it slow is number one. Number two is Don't distort the foot. Don't let it twist inwards. Keep the inner and outer ankle as they would be if you were standing up. And thirdly, you can open the angle at the back of the knee. Those three things together, hopefully, will give you scope to make sure your knee is not getting it. Now, most people find this enough, quite a lot, in fact. But there is another station you can do, which I like, actually, which is to bring yourself down like this. I'm still holding the foot. It sort of ups the ante a little bit, but more specifically in the hip, which is where we want. So this is another sort of, it's like a wrestling move in a way that you can play into if you want. So a variety of different ways in which you can play, as long as the knee is peaceful, and as long as you're feeling something in the hip, you can employ your other arm any way you like to really get that hip challenge. Okay, nice and easy. If you're ready, release that leg, stretch it out, give yourself a little rub down. Remember, they got to be everywhere. If they're going to be anywhere, they're going to be everywhere. So another Jnana Vayu. Very, very, very useful, these Jnana Vayus. And then other leg up if you're ready, or when you're ready. And similarly, placing with care and listening and responding, which of course is a bit of a motto in our family of Vajrasati Yoga, which includes anyone who wants in on any level. The family of Vajrasati Yoga is just a family of people who want to investigate for themselves and respect each other. That's pretty much it. Want to investigate for ourselves. Ehipassiko, which is a Buddhist phrase. The passiko part there comes from a root pas, which that's in Pali, from the Sanskrit root pash. And pash is one of the two roots that we have in Sanskrit for seeing. So ehipassiko means come and see. In other words, we're not expected to just, believe anything, but we can come and see. So as you move, you can come and see how the richness can absorb us back into the field of interdependence, what various traditions call various things. Again, there is the option to have this other sort of funky wrestling thing, which I like. Breath natural, eyes soft, jaw soft, brain soft, expressive, natural, honest. And if you're ready to come out, then nice and easy coming out and coming in to Adho Mukha Svanasana, the down face dog. So let's hop up our own way and really spend as long as we want disappearing. You disappear to reappear. And again, that's something, we could say glibly, but we can see this for ourselves. And it happens in so many of our life experiences. So many of our life experiences can be categorized as yoga. And sometimes our yoga, our yoga, modern postural yoga poses, is not yogic. Right? So what makes it yogic is a rich experience that we give to, usually through the breath, that causes us to disappear from a world of polarities, goodies, baddies, inside, outside, you and me, right and wrong, can and can't, success and failure, this and that, and reappear in a world of conditioned codependence, but it's not an idea. The idea of conditioned co-production is very good, very useful, but yogis don't want the idea, they want the direct experience, because that gives them the spontaneity of action.
So as you're spontaneously opening up to the way things are, then the expression, the karana, as we say in Sanskrit, the karana manifests, it expresses itself. Open up the armpits, inner armpits, outer armpits, underside of the armpits, all the way back to the groins, the heels back, the thighs up, back of the thighs, penetrate deep, deep towards the front of the thighs. Beautiful pose. Well done, everyone. Come down to regular kneeling. Obviously, a block can be placed between the heels and buttocks if you want. And rest your hands in dhyana or dhyani mudra or bhairavi mudra. It's basically, it's all the same. It's one hand cupped in the other with a slight difference in terms of bhairava and bhairavi mudra. It just tells you which hand is on top of which hand. And the left hand underneath is bhairavi. Breathing easy, rolling on the shins. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft, brain soft, tongue soft. Okay, release your hands and fold a third of your mat over. Now, a third is more than most people do when you ask them to fold a third. Most people fold a quarter when you ask them for a third. Now, you can see on this mat, which is very fortunately two colors, one underneath, one on top, how much a third is. It's a large amount. Okay. And that's necessary because we're going to come into versions of Janu Shirshasana. So draw the buttock out and back. And if you feel you can't feel any elevation or lightness in the lumbar, this, of course, is a case for sitting on a block. And if you're sitting on a block, the side that's closest to the screen, if you've got the screen set up that way, just tilts back. And don't worry, it doesn't really matter which side you tilt back. Whichever side of the block you tilt back, it is going to be that leg that you take hold of first. So if you're sitting on a block, just tilt one side. And the reason for that is so that the foot isn't blocked by the block. So when the foot comes back and the side, on the side you've tilted back, the foot can either come to the opposite thigh somewhere or to the top of its own thigh, and then turning, fingertips on the floor, breathing through your nose. Eyes soft, brain soft, jaw soft, tongue soft. Natural, organic, expressive. Now you probably noticed I've got a belt of sorts. Just happens to be one of these sort of rubbery belts that they use in Pilates and things. Anyway, you can see it basically takes the same place as a belt, so you can use a belt here. And breathe through your nose. You go as far as the pelvis tilts and then stop. Make sure the central channel is felt. We've described it earlier as running anterior to the spinal column. Some texts tell us it's about the thickness of your thumb. Soft inside the knee capsule, off the bent leg. And perhaps there are natural moments where the pelvis tilts, and they may be brought on by movements that help the hamstrings just to melt a little. So moving side to side, this kind of thing. It so happens that some people have got short legs and long arms, and that in due course, the hamstrings release, and so it becomes appropriate to hold the foot for those people in that circumstance. Appropriate means that it's absorbing. Inappropriate means that it's some sort of struggle that we're doing, driven out of a sense of inadequacy, which has been conditioned into us by either our parents who we love, of course, no matter what. Thanks for what you tried to do and what you did. And social conditioning and all the rest. Melting, melting, melting. I like that the Iyengas talk about this as head from knee rather than head to knee, because that can help us consider a release in the back leg. So as the back knee releases, it's like all the fibers, including sort of imaginal fibers that run from the inner thigh through to the opposite leg, they release. So we're disciplined by honesty. We're disciplined from perhaps otherwise being driven to keep up with the Joneses. Our practice or yogic practice of honesty. Deep breaths. Don't collapse your chest. The bottom of the breastbone should feel spacious. Everything should flow. That's what's important, not how close your head is to your leg. It just happens that some people have got long arms, or long hamstrings, or, they've waited long enough. But it's not range of motion doesn't equal enlightenment. It's just more flexibility. Okay, coming up calmly if you're ready. Very good. Extend out, obviously. Give yourself a little Vyanavayu. We're treating ourselves to a few of these today. So in these proper energy baths, distribute that energy everywhere. Really try and get the bits that are hard to reach. Okay. And once you feel that energy's kind of got you going, then checking the butterfly is drawn out and back. And if you have a block, bringing it back the other way now. So the other side is tilted back, the same side as the leg you're going to take back, and taking that leg back when you're ready. Either to the its own thigh, or even to the not its own thigh, the opposite thigh or the opposite knee, or to its own top thigh, which is much less possible for many, but if it is possible, it does provide an extra dimension to the stretch of the psoas. So I recommend it if possible. Okay, strappage around the ball of the foot because it's higher up. There are arguments for having it lower down, but higher up means hopefully it points to us being more upright. Eye soft, jaw soft, and soft inside the knee capsule. Aparigraha, empty of grasping. And head from knee. There's nowhere in the name Janu Shirsha that says whether it's to or from. All it says is Janu, knee, Shirsha, head. Okay. So releasing away from the softening, which is psychophysical, respiratory, of the back knee, the softening of the back knee. And it's very easy, Homo sapiens are great, and also, it's a difficult incarnation as well, because Homo sapiens are hugely socially driven, and that's had its benefits and its downsides. Organizationally, it means we can be organized into groups of very large numbers motivated to do this or that. Sydney Opera House, the Golden Gate Bridge, whatever. But negatively, it's a sort of driving force. So if we see someone else who's lower down, we think, oh, I've got to get there, I'm being left behind. In yoga, no. What leaves you behind is if you move away from absorption. Absorption is the thing we have in common, that we're all merging into the interdependent. Sometimes we just call it the mother. Buddhists call it praticca samutpada, which means something like conditioned co-production. Soft eyes, soft brain, meditation, 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 absorption, absorption, absorption. And your breath should be the indicator. So we test there because the Homo sapien tendencies can easily mask the truth, but the breath cannot be masked. The breath cannot lie. So if it's not flowing, you're not flowing somewhere, or this experience isn't flowing, which means in some place we're grasping, you know. Melt, melt, melt. Okay, wherever we came to, hopefully we practice profound honesty. We come up and extend out the legs and open up the mat as well. I try to flick it open. It never works quite right. I'm going to try again anyway. No, it's always a little bit wonky. Lay on your back when you're ready, which I wager is now. Looking at you, I think you look ready for that laying on your back. And have your belt nearby to hand as well. Keep your neck long, breathe through your nose. Observe the lower back releasing itself. Observe the neck releasing itself. Breathe through your nose. Any areas that are interesting on any level, whether they're tingling, whether they're warm, whether they're pleasant, whether they're painful. Go right to the heart of any richness, whether it's pleasure, pain, or neutrality. Any richness in the neck. Richness connected to the breath. Holding, gripping, grasping, grabbing, all indicate uncertainty. A very big obstacle to yoga, samshaya. When you're ready, raise a leg and bring the strap, this time around the front of the heel. And give yourself enough slack on this strap that your arms can be straight and your leg can be straight. If you go too short, then it might be difficult to have the leg straight. If you go too long, it might be difficult to have the arms straight. And breathe through your nose if you can. Pacify the jaw, pacify the neck, pacify the shoulders. Let the weight of the body settle more everywhere. And breathe through your nose. Extend the lower leg by skimming the heel. I'll have to move backwards a little bit, but you might not. Skimming the heel like you're skimming a stone. The world record of skimming is 88, I think. 88 skims. That's a lot. Jaw soft, eyes soft, breathing deep. Particularly focus your attention on the lower leg. And without holding the breath, because when the breath flows, everything flows, and we're dancing with the goddess, it means we have her knowledge, or we are her knowledge, or what we called we, me, myself, and I. We recognize as her, so we give to her power, her Shakti, the Shakti to know, Jnana Shakti, the Shakti to want, Icha Shakti, and the Shakti that acts on that knowing and that wanting, Kriya Shakti. Now hold the belt with one hand only, the same hand as the raised leg. The other hand goes on top of the other thigh. And we're going to imagine that a belt, I'll just show you what I mean. We imagine a belt is around the top of the thigh like that, someone pulling it right at the top of the thigh, right at the crease at the top of the thigh. And as that happens, of course, that crease will deepen. It's very meditative and breath-centered. It should be breath-centered. And the leg, in this beautiful meditative mode, breath-centered mode, comes a little closer. We can lift our heads, but the motivator is that imagined cutting in, as we call it, at the crease, at the top of the thigh, deepening without holding the breath. Keep your chin close to your chest so there's no strain. And the neck muscle, the abdominals, of course, are definitely part of it. And this meditative deepening. Head down, keep the neck long. Bend the lower leg, release the upper. Take a deep breath in with a sigh, like exhale, please. And then another will follow, and another will follow, and another will follow. So these deep sort of letting goes. This is revaluing emptiness. Emptiness means no bias. Emptiness means not carrying over grudges or gripes, starting afresh. Emptiness, in other words, is the path to peace. Without emptiness, without valuing emptiness, peace can never happen. We're just in cycles. Let's raise up the other leg and bring the belt around the front of the heel. Keep the neck long. Breathe through your nose if you can. Some people even say that the nasal lining and the nasal passage is part of the lung lining. You know, it's part of the lungs in some sense. And that's because when you breathe in, of course, it has a profound effect on hydrating and warming, filtering. But yeah, but also there's a resistance there that brings more elasticity to the lungs, that resistance. That's very useful, very important. Skim the lower leg if you're ready. And see if you can meditatively feel into the inner groin. Don't hold the breath. Breathe through your nose. Hold the strap with one hand only. And the other hand goes onto the other thigh. Again, we're going to imagine that cutting in, like I showed you before, as if a belt were being pulled by someone else at the very top of your thigh. And as we lift our head, it's very tempting to just pull the leg and just think, oh, blow it with this cutting in malarkey. I can't be bothered to commit. I'd rather be half in, half out. But this commitment is what makes a huge difference. Calling ourselves to presence. And presence is the goddess, you see. That's why Eckhart Tolle and people bang on about the power of now. Because now is powerful because it's the field. It's the interdependent field. And that field negates clinging for reasons I've described many times. Head down, bend the lower leg, release the upper leg, put the belt to one side, put your hands underneath your head, take a deep breath in with a deep breath out. Hopefully you can enjoy a few really nice moments of feeling your chest muscles soften. And you can feel the muscles between the shoulder blades, rhomboids. Feel other muscles around the ribs, perhaps the serratus anterior. Just breathing your way through it. Flex up your hips when you're ready. Lift your feet. And still breathe into the lower back. Lift up your head if you're ready. Lift up your head. And still breathe into the lower back. Extend one leg to about 45 degrees relative to the floor. If it's tight in the back, raise the leg a bit higher. Or you can let it move. Don't put strain through the lower back. Keep it intimate and dancing. Flex that back, extend the other. Similarly, meditate on the flow. Allow it to happen in the body in such a way that it happens in the breath. It's beyond thinking, unmani, we're told in the Hatha Yoga texts. Beyond thinking. Okay, flex the leg back, head down, feet down. Everyone takes deep breaths now. Those exhales can be like proper sighs. Most of us pick up stuff all the time and, we yearn to be empty, but think that we shouldn't, We think, oh, I mustn't forget, the rules and regulations, the current memes that are going around in society, the things that I've got to I've got to remember, you got to do this and you mustn't do that. So there's a lot of fear, I must be prepared for that, such and such a thing happened, and I'll be prepared if it happens again, but it won't. You never step in the same river twice. The best way to deal with the present is to not have baggage that gets in the way of perception. Bring your feet close to your bum and lift your bum up if you're ready. Doesn't have to lift high. Can lift just a bit, or it can lift high if you want. But we want to massage our lower back. So sometimes moving side to side, bouncing the pelvis perhaps, or swaying or tilting or bouncing or, swooping. There's multiple different possibilities, but only one effect that we want, right? Lots of ways to do it, but the effect we want is to be absorbed, isn't it? The effect we want, sorry to move the microphone like that, the effect we want is to be absorbed. So up, down, left, right, shaking, tilting, swaying, bouncing, and finding the pelvic floor and finding looseness. You could circle, you could half circle, full circle, tilt, sway, shake, whatever works. And then nice and easy, floating back down. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Take a few more deep breaths. With eyes soft, jaw soft, brain soft, throat soft. Release your hands from behind your head and roll over, facing towards, this way if you're happy to. And once you're laying on your side, support your head with your hand. If that's tricky, you can use a blanket like this between your arm and your head. And sometimes it just feels pretty nice to do that anyway. And I must admit, I'm finding that quite nice, mellow. Either way, extend your bottom ribs a few times, extend your armpit as well. And then when you're ready, bring your top leg up and play between the horizontal and the vertical planes, looking to loosen the inner thigh muscles and not to hold the breath at all. To keep the eyes soft, the brain soft, to really tone up the top of the outer thigh on the raised leg until we feel an increasing psychophysical release of the adductors, the inner thighs. An increasing psychophysical, respiratory, it's happening into the breath too, the inner thighs. Now I could this is great for me. I love this station. And if you want to stay in this station, you're getting a lot of absorption from it, then great. That's the mark of a great yogi. Some people want to bring the leg closer and closer by softening the tissue at the top of the thigh. So you might even be able to extend it, as you can see, beyond the foot, which means it's easy to reach the foot without turning the foot forwards. And then again, this station's great. Either of them are great. And then there's other stations that are, might be interesting to extend and bend. Movements of your foot can be connected with the meditation of absorption. So breath-centered meditation of absorption. The breath-centered meditation of absorption. Anantasana. Ananta means without end. The A-N part. Just used exactly the same way that we find it in English, like anachronistic or something, A-N at the beginning. Anantasana. So an plus anta. Anta meaning end. So anta means endless, or we sometimes say the infinite. And that's also a name of a sort of cosmic snake that Vishnu rests on between creating universes. Okay, bring your leg down when you're ready. Good job. Well done. Knees up, head down. Deep breath, only one or two, because it's easy to get soporific. And then we come up from the side in your own time, and OVS, which is short for obviously, we do the other side. And whenever you're ready, extend, and all the same things apply, of course. So extend your bottom ribs, open up the intercostals, the inner, the outer, the innermost intercostals. And of course, you have to extend the armpit and the elbow, because otherwise it all shunts up energetically and you get this sort of tension around the trapezius and the deltoid. And then a bit of rolling and happiness. Breathing through your nose, rolling forwards, rolling backwards. Looking for, richness. Simple as that, really. Looking for richness. And once you've had a good old-fashioned roll, then we begin to investigate ways in which we might loosen up and extend and bring into harmony the 5 muscles that constitute the adductors. Now, some posit a 6th as well, but anyway, there's only 3 that are called adductor: brevis, longus, magnus. We could definitely all agree on those being adductors. And gracilis is included in some people's counting. And pectineus too. Some people count that. And then reaching if you're ready. So here what we're trying to do is kind of soften all the tissue at the top of the thigh so it becomes more pliant. And that pliancy means it becomes something softer for the leg to move through. So trying really hard, sort of being determined, and really doesn't work, because of course that tells the nervous system that we're sort of threatened, and then the body tissue tenses rather than softens. Again, there are other options to either maintain the bending, extending, the flexing stage, or to hold the big toe, or to extend with the held big toe. And it's playful, and it's meditative, and it's breath centered. And I hope it's enjoyable too. And I could spend a really good time here integrating. Okay, groovy. Let's come down, drop the head, draw the knees up, take a breath. Whoa, what a lovely feeling that pose gives. And come up nice and easy from the side, ready to sit in Siddhasana, or a comfortable seated position that suits you. So if you're going to sit in Siddhasana, a brick block is ideal. This one happens to be blue, which shows up well. But cork ones, wooden ones, or blue ones that are made of something from outer space. And Siddhasana. Chest up. And it's good to draw the butterfly out and back. But if Siddhasana is not comfortable, you can be in a kneeling position, or in a chair is fine as well. Attention into the heart center. Breathing through your nose. And we're going to imagine that we're breathing in green, purifying light through both nostrils that co-terminates at the pelvic floor every time we breathe in. And we imagine that it moves up through the central channel and comes out of the crown of the head as black smoke, but it's completely carbon neutral, doesn't cause any harm to the environment at all. And we're going to make this even stronger in a moment as so keep it going while I'm talking. Green light through both nostrils down to the pelvic floor. Gather together that green light during a retention of the breath, and then let it come up through the central channel and out of the crown of the head as black smoke. That's what we're doing as I'm talking. But in a moment, we're going to add a bit of our boom to that, because just one time, as we breathe in the green light to the pelvic floor and hold it, we'll push it up through the central channel with an Om and up out of the crown of the head. A couple more rounds before we do that. And when you're ready, gather at the pelvic floor. Deep breaths. Shoulders down. That's nice, very nice to sit like this, actually, for a while. But I've got a feeling that it's time for us to come into Shavasana. So if you're ready to come to this beautiful final practice, remember it's a Sanketa, but it's to say it's a practice given by Shiva, according to the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra. So it's one of only 5 practices that are mentioned in the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra, taught by Shiva for the purpose of melting. So the text tells us, or commentaries on the text tell us, or variations of the text tell us, find a place to be on your own and lay on your back, your mouth facing the sky as if you were dead. Lay on your back, your mouth facing the sky as if you were dead. Obviously, we're going to make sure we're warm as well. And if the head tips back, we're going to provide appropriate head support. And it will be an eyes closed position. Here we've got the rain coming down, which is quite nice. Scoot those shoulder blades under so you got that lovely buoyant feeling to the chest. Again, pointing to this openness. This openness. Surrender. Sharanagati. Surrender muscle, surrender bone. Imagine the skin across the whole of the body was saying yes. This is emptiness. The body saying yes. It's emptiness or openness. And openness makes us light. We're not carrying anything. And lightness gives us the ability to be spontaneously and perfectly responsive to the brand new situation that every moment is.
Yes. As ever one can lay for as long as it feels absorbing. And sometimes it's really magical because everything really does integrate. And it feels like nothing is kept apart or left aside from the field, which is the mother, the matrika, the mother field. So it will be up to you, up to us, when we feel like we want to move the toes or fingers. That might be now, or it might be in a minute, it might be in 10 minutes, it might be in 20 minutes. But integration happens this way. And when that happens, when you feel like that point where you feel ready to move toes and fingers and stretch out intuitively arms and legs, and eventually, of course, we'll bend our legs and place the feet on the floor and scoot the buttocks under for a great opportunity to release the lower back into the breath before rolling on to the left side with knees drawn up, a calming position. To deepen our calm and then rolling to the right. Or coming up all the way. As I say, this might be now, but it might be in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Either way, wherever you are and however you are, we can transfer our merit together. This wonderful ancient Mahayana Buddhist practice of transference of merit by saying Om internally or externally. Probably nice to say it externally, actually, after these following words. May any benefit that we've gained in our acting in this way go to the alleviation of the suffering of absolutely, without exclusion, every single being in the universe. Om. Thank you. Marvelous to see you. What a joy. Every time it's a joy to see you in your lovely, comfortable homes with your fairy lights and candles and beautiful lighting and love hearts things and whatever you've got. Lovely. Mwah. Thank you for your time. See you very soon. Hang loose, dudes. Ciao. Hey.